trap bar RDL. So as we said on the trap bar deadlift video, our preferred way of deadlifting for most people is going to be using a trap bar, just because it's easier to teach, and for most people it's a much safer movement, and there's none of the negative portions of pulling with a straight bar, of having to work the bar around your body. And I know I'm going to get a lot of hate mail for saying that, but you know, people do love the deadlift, but in my experience over the last 20 years, one of the exercises that's caused the most issues with people structurally and functionally, just because they don't respect it enough as a highly technical lift. So this will work the same muscles as the straight bar deadlift without having to utilize as much technique, so it tends to be a bit safer. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think exactly what you just said. If people say people want to send in hate mail, I don't know what our address is here, so good luck. But if people want to hate, on, we're not saying the deadlift is bad. Yeah. We're just saying application is the same as a bench press. If all you ever do is bench press, you're going to end up with some type of issue. Yeah. If all you ever do is deadlift, and you don't deadlift well for your body type or whatever your goal is, you're going to end up with some type of issue. You just got to balance everything out.
It's like if we post on Instagram that we love apples, people are going to go, oh, what about oranges? What about oranges? Why do you hate oranges? It's not that we hate it, it's just certain tools work better in certain scenarios with certain clients, right? And we have to weigh risk versus reward.
Yeah.
So,
in a general population gym, if this gym was entirely general population specific, just get trap bars, because they're safe. And especially when clients are working by themselves, the risk of injury is far less.
Yeah, we all know that the hip hinge is one of the hardest things to teach people how to do properly, right? And a lot of people, because of sitting down a lot, don't have the hip stability or the lower back stability or bracing or core stability and strength to actually do a hip hinge without it absolutely destroying their back.
Or coordination.
Or coordination. So now with the RDL, we will reinforce this before we go to a full trap bar deadlift. So in a lot of cases, we'll actually do this off of blocks or out of the rack. And the reason is that the easiest thing on a deadlift usually is getting the bar up. The hard part is getting it back down while still loading the muscles you're supposed to load without scooping anything or losing pelvic stability. So now, Shane knows how to deadlift, so he's going to go ahead and deadlift from the top, and then we're going to take it from there. So go ahead and form the deadlift. Okay, so the main thing and the way we teach this is that to get the bar to the ground, we need to load the hamstrings and the glutes so that we don't load the back. So what we're looking for is a lot of hip rotation and mechanically pushing the stress to the muscles that need to take the load. So the first thing we'll do is I'll have Shane sit back on his heels a little bit, and if his toes are starting to come up a little bit, I know he's there, okay? So now with the weight shifted back, we're going to start pushing the butt back and rotating the hips in an anterior manner. So we're rotating this direction, which is going to put a lot of strain on the hamstrings as it pulls the hamstrings into tension. Once he gets to the knees, now we bend the knees to return the bar to the ground, okay? One more, come up. Now, go ahead and push the butt back, keep the butt high, and we're taking the chest not down, but forward, okay? Now bend the knees. So we go until we run out of length and out of room, then we bend the knees. And this is why. So we'll look at Morty. When you look at where the hamstrings lie, the hamstrings originate at the ischial tuberosity. Well, at least three of the main hamstrings do: the semimembranosus, semitendinosus, and also the long head biceps femoris. And they attach into the tibia and the fibula. So what we're really trying to do in the case of teaching a hip hinge is we're trying to get the client to understand not to utilize their lumbar spine, and instead I'm trying to rotate the ischial tuberosity up and around to put those into tension so that the hamstrings can take the load. And the only way we can do that is if we push back and rotate the hips forward, driving those, and at the insertion point here, actually here, it's going to then create that tension you need to then not put any loading on the back. So that's very important that we're drawing this up and around and then creating a lot of stability and a lot of tightness on the back of the legs.
One cue I like to give clients as well is that when we're thinking about the hips, because unfortunately we're humans that have top halves as well, so we can't just work on just here and just say push your hips back and ignore everything else here. So thinking about this is again just a personal cue for me, is that I like to be able to think about keep my shoulders down. I'm trying to think about essentially pulling my scapula to my back pockets, so I'm creating tension already with the lats, mainly so that as I push back I'm not collapsing here and then starting to round my back as I'm lowering the bar. So I know if I've got back tension and I've kept my shoulders down, I'm pulling them towards my back pockets, I'm keeping that point between my scapula and my hips stable, then I'm keeping the point between my hips and the back of my knees stable. So I'm now thinking from there is once that tension's created, I'm pushing the hips back, which is going to allow me to feel my glutes and my hamstrings a lot more. And that's just something I've found, especially when I'm thinking about cueing, is that that's for a lot of clients, is if they lose tension here, then now the bar's essentially just drifting. So as they go to lean back, the hands start to go forward, which then shifts that load up into the lower back.
Yeah, I think a good cue too is to tell the client when they've grabbed the bar to try to bend the bar and break the bar this direction. If we start to go into external rotation, that tends to lock the lats into place, which then keeps the bar closer to the body and allows the upper body to have a lot more tension and carries that tension all the way to the top of the hips. Lastly, and probably something we should have talked about on the trap bar video that we forgot to talk about, is when you're doing any type of hinging motion, there's nothing in the mirror you need to look at. So there's no reason to be doing this as you're going up and down. And in fact, if you look at the space in the cervical spine, there's not a ton of space there. When you rotate your head back, especially under load that's pulling you forward, that's gonna jam the facets in the cervical spine, and that's gonna cause a lot of irritation to the nerves coming out of the cervical spine and cause damage. So we wanna make sure that we're keeping the chin tucked and packed in, and that we don't allow the head to rotate too far up and back. So if we think about having a fat neck, I don't know if I can even say that these days, but having a fat neck and everything's coming here as opposed to coming here. As well as if I go into cervical extension, that's gonna have an effect on my lower back as well. If anything in the dynamics of the back changes, it affects everything else. So in a lot of cases, when somebody extends their head up, that's gonna reposition where their pelvis is, which is then gonna open them up for injury. Right? If you want to really see, you can't see the muscles working anyways because they're on your backside. So if you want to, you put a camera back and then maybe put your laptop on the floor. That way, if you're so worried about that you need to look at it, then you can watch yourself on the floor and watch your ass going up and down instead of trying to see something in the mirror that you can't actually watch.
The note as well is that this is a full range movement at the moment. So you can regress this, and this is something that I'll get a lot of my clients to do as well, is if you can't learn a hinge or if you can't learn how to trap bar deadlift, if you can't already master this movement, you don't want to be working a full range. So don't teach them to be constantly doing that movement from the floor. Start by regressing it by either elevating the trap bar itself, so having it up on some blocks or maybe sitting in a rack like Luke mentioned before in our other trap bar deadlift video, is that starting people in a limited range, master the range, then make the range a little bit further. So that way, and similar to here, is that we can actually see the handles. If someone's getting really proficient at this movement, we can increase that range if we want to by just turning the trap bar over. Then we can start to work on deficits as well. But those are very end range goals that we can take people to, because the range of movement is going to be a lot greater, therefore risk of injury is going to be increased as well.
Yeah, for a lot of people, those really long ranges of motion aren't really practical for what they're looking for anyways. Most of the people that come into our gym for Gym Pop, they want to feel better, look better, poop better, they want to lose some weight, they want to get a little bit stronger. They're not really concerned about those really long ranges, but if it's an athlete, now we're having a completely different conversation, right?